Boxing fans have been eagerly awaiting Tyson Fury's third fight against Deontay Wilder, which has been rescheduled twice already due to coronavirus restrictions.
Well, the fight is set to take place in December before Tyson can face Anthony Joshua, what fans are calling the biggest fight in boxing history. Tyson joins us now from Morecambe. Good morning to you, Tyson. You're looking very smart today.
I've made an effort because I knew it was coming on the show.
Oh, we appreciate it.
Also joined by your brilliant promoter, Frank Warren, of course. Let me start with you, Tyson. How frustrating is all this for you? You know, you're a sportsman at the top of your game, world champion, and yet at the moment you can't do what you do. And there's no real sign at the moment of when you'll be able to do it.
Yes, quite frustrating, to be honest with you, Piers. But, you know, we're not in this boat alone. I'm not the only athlete on the planet who is not active at the moment. We're all in it together. We're all working as a team to source a date and a venue. Hopefully they'll allow crowds in sooner or later. And we're just all working towards that goal at the moment.
Well, Frank, what impact does it have on fighters when they can't do the training and the fighting that they need to do?
Good morning. Well, it's terrible. I mean, obviously, it's a financial impact, but there's the mental impact. That's what they do for a living. So they can't do their job. They just, and especially the guys, you know, are just starting out, or not everybody's Tyson. You know, Tyson's the best known fighter and the biggest box office draw in boxing. But there are other guys down the chain who are not in that position, and it has a serious effect. And also for the amateur situation, there are no amateur shows going on. So these young lads who are in, and gals who are in amateur boxing clubs, they're not able to be involved in tournaments. And I'm wondering if we're going to lose a generation of youngsters because of this. Because boxing does have a great effect on the community, especially in the city areas. You know, gyms, they're a great place for people interacting and so forth. There's obviously an obesity problem in this country, the training aspect, the dietary situation and so forth. All that may get lost. Yeah. And so, as Tyson said, we're all in this together, but it's how we're going to come through it and the help that we're going to need to come through it as an industry.
Tyson, you've had, a lot of well-publicised by yourself, actually, issues with mental health and so on over the years. A lot of people finding this period difficult for their mental health. How have you found it?
I found it challenging, to say the least, but at least I've had the training in my life to keep me motivated and keep me focused on what I'm about to achieve when given the chance. Like I've said many times, Piers, I train twice a day, mostly for me, 99% of that for me, to keep my mental health on a straight and narrow path. So, yeah, it's been challenging, but I'm getting through it, and I'm looking forward to when it all goes back to what we used to think was normal at one stage in our lives.
It does make you think, doesn't it? I was thinking last night that the way we just took freedom and the freedom to do what we want to do for granted for all our lives, certainly everyone here right now, for our entire lives, we had complete freedom. And now suddenly we don't. It's a weird thing, isn't it, Tyson, when you suddenly can't do everything you want to do?
Very much so. We've been dictated to for the last however long, few months, since March, really. And it's probably the first time for many of us where we haven't been allowed to do what we wanted to do in our lives, and we've been restricted. So I think now more than ever we will appreciate what we have and what we can do in our lives when we are allowed to do it again. I think we'll appreciate things so much more than we did before.
Yeah, you've also been very open about weight. A lot of us here in the studio, two of us, found lockdown added a few pounds.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You've been honest about
We've
that.
all had a big lockdown, Tyson.
Yeah, we've put on a few pounds. How are you managing to... I mean, obviously you're carrying on training, but without goals to work towards, it must be quite hard to maintain that training regime. And, many of us are doing a little bit, frankly, of comfort eating, but it looks to me like you've managed to resist.
Yes, I have. When it was like lockdown, he wasn't allowed to do much apart from an hour a day exercise outside. I was actually training like 5 times a day. I'd do 3 or 4 sessions in the house, in the garden, outside. It was absolutely a crazy time for me. I was up to like 5 sessions a day. I think I lost the plot completely with it. I went in like OTT fitness mode, and I managed to keep the weight down. I boxed at around about 19 stone, 4 or 5. And I was walking around at about 18, 12. So I was bang on where I was supposed to be. And I was hoping that this was going to come to an end sooner rather than later. But obviously it's dragged on. And we're now near into October without a light at the end of the tunnel. And it looks like we're going to go back into another lockdown or whatever's going to happen. So I'm just keeping my fingers crossed. I'm staying positive, and I'm being very optimistic about fighting this year, wherever it may be. You know, Frank's the promoter, and I'm sure along with Bob and the other guys from MTK, they'll all get their heads together and make it work.
Frank, we are seeing a lot of sport continuing behind closed doors. Could you have this fight with nobody there?
No, not a fight of that magnitude. No, Tyson and Deontay Wilder's last fight was the highest grossing heavyweight fight to take place ever in Vegas. So we can't, we just can't lose that gate money. It was a huge amount of money. So we do need the live gate. So we come up with a scenario where there's a huge site fee from a territory to take it and use it for promoting their country or whatever. So we're looking at those situations. But we're promoting fights. We're into our 7th fight on Saturday on BT. We've done 7 now behind closed doors, and it's been a very surreal situation with no crowds here, and how the boxers have responded to it. We've got Scottish boxer, triple world champion Josh Taylor defending his title on Saturday, and he, I'm looking forward to that. But for him, a guy who normally fights and he gets tens of thousands of people watching him, it's going to be a very difficult situation. It's the first men's world title fight to take place since lockdown, so it's going to be quite interesting to see how he responds.
Football's interesting, isn't it? Because it's great that they're playing, and we're both big Arsenal fans. It's not the same. And when I heard that they may not get fans back in until March, probably, maybe not even this season, that's such a fundamental change to what football is, which is fans at a stadium and all the passion that goes with it.
Well, you're absolutely right. And I believe athletes respond to the crowds. They do respond. It can lift you. Yeah. We always talk about in boxing having home advantage. You don't want to, why go and fight? Tyson, the exception, he goes abroad and does the business. But, most of the time we want guys who, we want the home advantage for our boxers. But that's just, it doesn't mean nothing now. You're going to sterile venues where the so-called away fighter, he's not going into the Lions Den.
Tyson, could you imagine fighting with nobody there?
Not really. Like Frank said, it's quite a complex situation because, like Frank was just saying about fighters being at home and away and all that, I do box at home, Frank, because Las Vegas is the new home of the Gypsy King.
Well said. Well said,
Good to see you both.